Okay, I'm back, and this time we're going to look at fake news starts with the title. How many times have we heard the word fake news within the last, let's say, 5 or 6 years or 10 years or so? Probably a lot. And what does it mean? What does it mean to you, fake news? Basically, what fake news is, right, is something that is not true, but maybe parts of it can be true, and it's being manufactured and manipulated to make us believe something, right, or feel something, whether it's against someone, for someone, or whatever the case may be. That's what fake news really is. And the whole point is to get our attention, to get us to buy, to click on an article or blog, to buy a newspaper, to keep the TV on, to keep watching. It does all of these things, right? As long as it gets our attention, then it basically served its purpose. So that's what fake news is. But the purpose here of what he's trying to do is to prove that fake and real news can be differentiated. Okay? That's his purpose. And his thesis is actually at the end as well, which is interesting. He says we can detect fake news to some extent, but it is still our responsibility to take the time to read an article's arguments and assess the veracity of our biases before sharing information. Now that's a lot. That's a mouthful, right? So what does it actually mean? What it means is that we can probably detect fake news somewhat, right? Somewhat, because we're somewhat aware. But it is still our responsibility to read the article in its entirety, aware that it might have some false information, and seek out our own facts, right? Think about it. Use our own intelligence. There's other sources out there. Fact check, right? Look for information that backs up your source, especially if it uses language that you think might be manipulative. Now, what he says, some of the signs of fake news are big, bold letters, all capitals, right? Trying to grab your attention. A lot of times the title has a lot of information in it on purpose because they're trying to give you everything all at once. Kind of like that big heaping spoonful with all the fudge on top to get you enticed to read more, right? Whereas a real news article doesn't need to do so because they're not trying to capture your attention. They're just simply telling information, which is what news was supposed to have been, right? A lot of journalists now have not done that, unfortunately. It's supposed to be objective. We're not supposed to know what side they're on of something. But there's a line that's been crossed, and we could see that a lot now. But what we could see, what he does also, which I think is kind of a interesting twist, he's clever. He's a little sarcastic. He uses large bold capitals as the titles, which is what he says we should watch out for in fake news, but he does it himself. So I think he's trying to call our attention to that too, just to kind of play with that a little bit. But what do you think of this? What do you think of fake news? How often do you encounter it? And do you process it? Do you think about what's fake about it? Do you fact check it? Do you believe it right away? Not everything that we see is true, right? And not everything that we see is untrue. It's up to us to determine that ourselves, especially right now with our upcoming election. There's a lot of information that we need to process. There's misinformation, there's real news, there's fake news, there's a lot of stuff going on. So be aware, be open, be intelligent, and make your own decisions that are informed ones.